am so excited for our next guest. I'm going to pop her up here as well. This is Lahana Vigliano, and I'll give her I'll read y'all her formal intro in just a moment, but just a kind of personal comment about Lahana, and that's just, I met her, I don't know, probably a year and a half ago, and looking for a nutritionist because just felt like something was off with the hormones or something. I'm like, I can do math, but I'm not losing the weight. And I could exercise more, but still not losing the weight. And what was fascinating is it was, a local group, and people were like, oh, talk to this person, talk to that person. And, a lot of them were similar, I'll say. And Lahana has a very different approach. She, and I'll let her talk more about this, but she looks at how your body processes food and turns it into hormones. And she did this test and she's like, here, check it out. And I said, yeah, okay, what does that even mean? And so she went through the whole thing, and it was, my body did this to estrogen and turned it into progesterone and then cortisol and all this stuff. And then she handed it to me again. She's, you don't understand that? I said, I don't know what I'm looking at. Just explain it to me. My point being is that she takes a very different approach to nutrition and looks at the whole system. And so she's got a lot of great information, tons of energy, super upbeat, lives and breathes this stuff. So just to give you a quick formal introduction before I turn it over, Lahana is a board certified clinical nutritionist, and she owns Nutrivu Wellness. She helps women who are struggling with hormonal imbalances or digestive issues using a food as medicine approach. She has her bachelor's in nutrition science, graduating with her master's in human nutrition and functional medicine this year. And then she just announced not too long ago that she's going to be pursuing her doctorate in clinical nutrition next year. So she's here in Austin with her 2 kids, and she's awesome. You guys are going to love her. So, Lahana, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to do this talk. I'm sure everyone is like information overload today, but this is going to be really awesome, different, and I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to you. I'll pop up the slides and
Yay.
pretty face up here so everyone can see you. Will you present?
Perfect. Okay. I have 25 minutes. There's a lot of information, but I'm going to get through it as quickly, but as in depth as I can. This is really important. And I feel like this topic of diet and lifestyle is not often talked about as much. We talk about IVF and we talk about hormones, but where does food and where does lifestyle play a role? And so this is what I'm really passionate about, because food is fuel, and food is what provides nutrients to allow our bodies, our cells, our systems to work properly, along with our lifestyle and environment, which also dictates hormones. I will definitely get into that because it's just kind of a broad term, but it really does make a difference. And if this isn't something that you've dove into your journey with infertility, I will highly encourage, and you'll be motivated to look into it too after today. So Heather already announced me. Thank you so much for the personal and official bio. So I will skip this and we'll just get straight into the good stuff. Okay. Let's take a step back and look at the general overview of infertility. And this is a lot of the stuff that you will hear when working with different doctors and practitioners. There's ovulation issues. There could be in your partner sperm quality, quantity issues. And then there's, of course, the physical things as well, which we will not talk about, but things like, the scarred uterine tissues, physically damaged fallopian tubes, all that. And then there is the 4th category of unknown, which I would probably argue that, yes, it's unknown, but there's, again, still is so much that you can dive deep into, and there's a reason that infertility is something that you're struggling with. So this is the overview, right? And I'm all about peeling back layers because this is where you really start to uncover the root cause and the foundational things that need to be focused on that often aren't. I will also give a little example so that way you'll understand a little bit more. All right, so as we're focusing more in this class with ovulation and sperm, ovulation issues, sperm quality, quantity issues, what could happen? What could be influencing that issue? We have estrogen, progesterone, we have adrenals, we have blood sugar balance, we have thyroid hormone, nutrient deficiencies, prolactin, all these things that can be an issue and cause you not to ovulate, delay ovulation, reduce the quality of your sperm, etc. Okay. And this is where I feel like a lot of people stop. And actually, I'll wait until I give the example and then you'll make sense. But what I also want to do now is peel back one more layer. Okay, we know that estrogen and progesterone are off. Great. Is just giving a medication for estrogen and progesterone the answer? Actually, it's not, in my opinion. This is what I want to peel back the layer, because we still got to ask the question of why. Well, why could that be off? This is the foundational stuff. This is your diet. This is your environmental toxins. This is your sleep, your exercise, your stress, and also genetics play a role. But I'll put a little asterisk by genetics, because while it's a big deal. There's also something called epigenetics, which is how our body reads our genes. Turning off and on genes is a pretty new thing. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it's all about not so much what loads the gun, so to speak, which is your genetics. It's also about what pulls the trigger, which is all your diet and your environment and your lifestyle. And this is what I want to get down to. So let's move on to the example so you understand it more. All right, so you're here, you're struggling with infertility. Okay, your doctor finds out there's a thyroid issue. You have hypothyroidism, your thyroid's not working properly, and that is what's causing you to ovulate weird or not ovulate at all. Perfect. So is the answer to give thyroid medication to get your thyroid hormone up, and then that's how we're gonna make a baby? Yes, that can definitely, work, and it can improve, especially if you're symptomatic, et cetera. Not saying that that's the wrong way, but that's usually the step that it's stopped at. Like, oh, we know it's thyroid that's causing your infertility, so we'll just give you some thyroid hormone and we can work on getting pregnant. No, this is where I would fight to say, no, we got to dig deeper, because we need to now answer the question, well, why is my thyroid off? And now we're going to get into these foundational things I talked about. Is it a nutrient deficiency? Is it iodine, iron, selenium? Are you deficient in something that is not allowing thyroid hormone to be made properly? Is it environmental toxins? Is it stress? All of these things really play a role in how thyroid hormone is made. So let's talk about diet. So this is a big part. And honestly, I don't have that much time, but what I do want is I want to make sure that I'm covering the top two things that we see that cause issues. And let's talk big picture. Let's talk, are you eating enough? This is something that I see so many women struggling with. Food is fuel, and you can think of the cliche term as car and gas, but which is true. Technically, you are a car and you do need gas, and food is gas to make your body run efficiently. But something that I want to note is your body needs a certain amount of energy, calories, to do the things that keep you alive. So that is your cardiovascular system, that is your brain, that is your lungs. Those are all the things that you need, right? You don't have them, you're not alive. So when we are eating only a certain amount, a small amount, it's going to utilize that energy and prioritize the things that will keep you alive. Guess what is not a priority? Unfortunately, it's reproduction, because we don't have to reproduce to be alive, right? And to keep it in perspective, 1,200 calories is what a toddler needs, not a grown woman or man. And I will say, I see this often. I see a lot of women who are eating under 1,200 calories. And if that's what a toddler needs, and you're trying to create a baby, you can see where this is where things disconnect. Under eating increases your stress, it increases nutrient deficiencies, and it decreases your thyroid function. And these are all things that are needed to conceive a baby, right? We want to make sure that our body feels safe. We want to make sure that we're not having any nutrient deficiencies to allow our hormones to work. We need our thyroid functioning properly to have babies. What I want to encourage is this is something you can change today. This is something that you can track, you cannot track, you can work with a practitioner, really figure out what you're eating, how much, and if that needs to change. So this is like an easy fix, which is awesome. Now diving a little bit deeper into the details, right? The keto, the low carb, are you fasting? Are you not fasting? Are you low fat? These are the things that we are really stuck in, like the yo-yo dieting world, and whatever works for our neighbor Karen, which I always feel bad for like actual Karens with that name, just because, it's really popular right now. Anyways, how your Facebook friend, it works for them. They struggle with infertility, they went keto, they get pregnant. That doesn't mean that that's something you should do. It's a very individualized, and what I see people really do best with is balance, is especially when trying to conceive, having a little bit of everything, having some carbs, having some proteins, having some fats. There is a place for all the nutrients. So should I think that you should probably take out one of those whole groups, like take out fats, take out carbs? No, probably not. I think that's really excessive. And again, very individualized. So there's a time and a place where those things can be helpful. Should that be right now for you? Probably not. Probably unnecessary. Because balance matters. We want to encourage diversity. We want to make sure that you are getting a variety of nutrients to provide cofactors in all your hormone. We want to build healthy sperm. We want to make sure that you are getting a little bit of everything. Because I'm in grad school, so I'm deep in research all the time. It's a love-hate relationship, that's for sure. So I wanted to bring in a couple of studies that showed how nutrients affect sperm, because sometimes to me, when I actually see this, it helps me understand and it helps me get motivated too, of like, wow, this is actually studied to help. Yes. So as we can see, total sperm concentrations were increased by selenium, zinc, omega-3, CoQ10. L-carnitine was also helpful in significantly improving sperm volume and vitality. This is amazing. And do I say run out if your partner's having these issues, run out and go grab all these supplements? No, because that doesn't mean that this is what they need. But this is just to show you the power of food and nutrients and how much that does matter. And then, of course, when you're eating real wholesome foods, we're avoiding the inflammatory foods. These are the foods that are lower in nutrients. They can cause inflammation. They can cause blood sugar imbalances. And these are the things, obviously, we don't want when we are trying to get our body back into alignment and creating a baby. This is the end goal. Now, you won't be perfect. You won't avoid these foods all the time, but I would encourage that even though they are uberly delicious, temporarily avoiding them can really make a world of difference. And when you are able to look back and really improve your body and your health with where it's at, you can definitely indulge in some of these cheesy bacon fries, and it's fine. But I would encourage, when you're in a more therapeutic, working on a health problem, then yes, temporarily avoiding and doing your best to avoid is going to be the best thing you can do for your body. So that's what I wanted to cover with diet, because those are the things I think people want to overlook. They want to overlook the simple stuff. They want to overlook that maybe they're not eating enough, or maybe they are just following a diet or taking out a whole macronutrient group. Assess those two things. And obviously from there, we can dive deeper. We can talk food sensitivities, exactly what foods produce inflammation in you, etc. But those are two things that I want you to work on, because technically I just hold up for two things I want you to work on. Because when you are improving your health, I know it's super easy. You want a quick fix, a quick food, a quick supplement, and it just doesn't work that way. So that's where I want to leave you with diet. I really want to push into now toxins, and bear with me if you're not used to the functional, the integrative. I know this kind of sounds a little woo-woo. I promise it's not, and there's a lot of evidence behind it. But it's a big picture that no one's really talking about. I got my matcha. Okay, toxins. Okay, bear with me if you are not into science, but I want to quickly look into this. So here we see two ovarian cells, your theca cell and your granulosa cell, and these are inside the ovaries. And what we see here on the right side are different toxins: pesticides, BPA, dioxins, phthalates. Let me see, can I zoom in? Okay, I can zoom in. Let's make sure I don't mess it up. I really just want to look right here. So as you can see, cholesterol is the backbone to our sex hormones. Moving it into pregnenolone, into progesterone, you'll see this really weird alien number and letters. And these are enzymes. And what these enzymes do is they help pregnenolone, in this case, go to progesterone. And what we see here is the pesticide and the BPA that's inhibiting this enzyme, which basically makes pregnenolone not turn into progesterone. So this is the importance I want you to see. And just, okay, this is pretty easy to move around. As you can see here, progesterone to I'm not even actually going to try to pronounce that. And then just all these other ways that toxins are affecting the way that our hormones are working through the pathway to get from cholesterol, which is our backbone, all the way into the hormone that our body needs, right? And so this is a really important part because I actually got that from grad school. I screenshotted it. I don't have the study that was in, but it's really important because we're visually able to see this is how toxins affect hormones. While correlation doesn't equal causation, I don't think it's a coincidence that infertility is on the rise and toxins are also, there's so many now. Even the CDC states that there are 300 chemicals that can be found in human urine, breast milk, stool, and basically things that leave our body. So I found a couple of other studies that are really interesting. In the Baltic coast of Sweden, women who consumed fish were 2.5 times more likely to be infertile. Granted, fish in that area had PCB content 6 times higher than the Atlantic. Here you'll see 18 Canadian couples doing IVF, and they found multiple different types of toxins in 50% of follicular fluid samples. And women with higher BPA levels were more likely to have implantation failure during IVF. And this isn't just women, this is also men. This is testosterone production, affecting sperm quality, quantity, increasing sex hormone binding globulin, which basically can bind up your hormone and hold it within the blood until your body needs it. So let's now look at, hopefully, okay. I feel like I'm lagging a little bit, but I'm okay. Let's look into a male testes cells, right? Because women, let's cover men real quick. This is the Leydig cells and Sertoli cells. And I just want you to focus in on this one part, because I know some of this can feel like insanely overwhelming. But here we have phthalates and PCBs. And there's your cholesterol. So that's your backbone. You need to have good cholesterol levels to have proper sex hormone levels. And as you can see, phthalates inhibit or upregulate all these enzymes that basically go into testosterone. We also see phthalates here increasing this enzyme called aromatase, which actually turns your testosterone into estrogen, potentially leading into a cause of estrogen dominance. With hormones, it's really all about balance. It's Goldilocks. You need not too small, not too large, just right. So I love these graphics because if you're a visual person, this is so much easier to understand. Anyways, easier to understand when you have that visual. So more studies I found. Common indoor pesticides were found in 50% of men that had abnormal numbers of chromosomes in sperm. High urinary phthalates were found to give 20% decrease in male fertility. And pesticide applicators that contained DBCP showed lower sperm counts. So again, do I think it's a coincidence that toxins are going up? We're using them in everything from our hygiene to cleaning products to our homes. Do I think it's coincidence? I really don't. I think this is still pretty brand new and the research is always coming out about it, but it's all about assessing with where you're at because it's not okay. It's not okay that we live in a toxic world, and I understand that. And there are some things we can't avoid, like walking out your front door. You get exposed to lots of toxins. But what are you doing that you can change, that you actually have control of? And this is where we need to assess. Are you using or putting products on your skin, cleaning with them, inhaling them, the candles, all that? Are you using them? Are you assessing your detoxification? Are you sweating? That's a great way to detox. Regular. Are you pooping every day? And I'm not ashamed to talk poop talk. It's always my jam because it's phase 3 detox. And then liver detoxification, is it working? Because liver detox it's working every day, which is so awesome. Like love on your liver. But it's a very nutrient dense process. You need a lot of amino acids, you need a lot of B vitamins, a lot of other different minerals and vitamins. And if you're deficient in one thing or not getting enough of it, like we said with under eating, possibly not eating enough protein, this is really inhibiting your body's ability to detox. And then this is where things can add up. And I know it's like, but I only do a candle here. And okay, I have a really special shampoo I love and it has it. Well, I also use the soap downstairs because I really love the smell. It's the little things that add up. So assessing what are your burdens and how are you working to improve them? And the last thing I'm going to cover is stress and sleep. Really important because 1 in 3 people do not get enough sleep, and this is not okay. Oop, I'm going backwards. Lack of sleep can be really stressful on the body. The relationship between our hypothalamus and pituitary, these are 2 parts of our brain, and they communicate with our ovaries, they communicate with our adrenals. This whole relationship, it's a really beautiful relationship, but it needs to be in sync. And being too stressed or not getting enough sleep can definitely hinder this relationship and communication between the brain, adrenals, brain, ovaries. In sum, here I found a study and I screenshotted it. Stress has potential to impair fertility during critical periods involving regular menstruation, ovulation, implantation, etc. And I do see the women that come to us with infertility and we'll run, a complete hormone panel. We'll look at adrenals. I would say 90% there's something up with the adrenals, whether there is long-term disconnect from your brain to your adrenals. So they're just not producing a lot of cortisol anymore. And then I also see where they're producing a lot of cortisol and they are really stressed out. So you have to ask, where is the stress coming from? External factors like, of course, your job, your family drama, it's there. Self-inflicted stress, perfectionist right here, hard worker right here, especially when you're passionate about what you love doing. It's intense. Lack of sleep, under eating. These are all external factors. Now, don't forget about the internal factors that can be stressful on the body. And that are things like underlying infections and imbalances. This is where gut health comes into play. And that's why we both are in our practice are passionate about gut health and hormones because it's all together. It's all interconnected. And that's where our practice wants to be the bridge because in just regular healthcare, you'll see gastroenterologist, you'll see hormone specialist, you'll see a brain person, here, everyone specializes. But sometimes it's hard to connect everything because it would be nice if we could look at the body and say, it's a gut issue, we have to look here, but it's not. Our gut is where things starts. That's where hormonal imbalances can start. That's where low-grade chronic inflammation can start. That's where anxiety and depression can stem from is gut health. So we can't separate the body into different systems as much as we would love to. So the internal factors, before I went off on that tangent, looking at, like I said, the underlying infections and imbalances, your detoxification, overall toxic burden, even if you feel like you live pretty clean, and I would definitely consider that just because it's kind of what I do. But when I did my toxin test, because I'm a lab nerd for myself, I like to know what's going on inside my body. There were still things like I was still high in phthalates, and that helped me assess, as we go back to the toxin talk, where in my life do I have that? Where am I possibly overlooking? So all of these, when you especially have higher toxins or whatever, this is a very stressful thing on the body. So we got to look at both external and internal. And then, of course, we didn't really talk too much about blood sugar, balance, your insulin, your glucose, but having diabetes, insulin resistance does increase your risk of infertility. So just to put it in perspective, only 1 night of bad sleep can throw your blood sugar off the next day. That kind of makes me stressed out because I'm, again, a little bit of a perfectionist. It's going to happen, especially, when you have kids, sleep is non-existent for a little bit. But 1 night of bad sleep can throw your blood sugar off the next day, which is crazy to think about. I don't know if you've ever experienced, I know I have, when you don't get enough sleep too, you're hungrier the next day. It's almost like insatiable hunger. And you're also craving not the good stuff. you're craving the donuts, and you're craving the pizza, and you're craving the fast food, and you're craving all these things. It's actually very normal that you're feeling that way because it's simply from lack of sleep. So optimizing your sleep and getting a bedtime routine is so vital. Yes, go back to infant years. When we have just a set schedule for our babies, well, we need to have a set schedule as adults, whether that is herbal tea at night, bubble bath at night, sleep induction mats, which are awesome. You can find them on Amazon. I'm trying to think what else. What else do I do? Dimming the lights, wearing blue blockers if you want to be on a TV or your phone or whatever, but making sure that you're blocking the blue light so your melatonin can be produced. This bedtime routine is going to change the game, and going to bed at the same time most nights, like 10 o'clock's your bedtime. You start winding down at 8. Get your body into that habit. And then, of course, reducing your stress. And I wish there was a supplement that would take all your stress away, but there isn't. And what I find to be the most simplest course of action when you're trying to assess your stress and reduce it is to just make time for doing something you love. I think we're just a community that is so overworked, all work, no play, especially if you're struggling with certain health things. That itself is such a stressor. But making time to do something you love and get your mind off of the normal day-to-day tasks is life-changing. So as you can see, there's so many different factors that play a role in infertility, so many different factors. And while it seems really overwhelming, really just taking one step at a time, starting with diet, then working towards looking into your environment. And this is what working with practitioner can help ease this whole journey and make it not as overwhelming for you. So I want you just to start with the foundations. Like I said, diet, exercise, environment, sleep, stress. Not only just to help you conceive a baby, but just for your health, because these are habits that you can take in the long term. So I believe that you got this, even though it's overwhelming at first. So we would love for you just to connect with us. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Nutrivu Wellness. My website has tons of resources, blogs, other classes as well, diving deeper into each one. And our podcast, Functional Nutrition Radio, where all podcasts play, Spotify and iTunes I put here, but basically where all podcasts play. So I really appreciate the time I'm spent with you. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If Heather's coming back on, if there was any type of questions now that I could answer. But thank you guys so much for entertaining me and my love for food and lifestyle.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being here. We appreciate it, and it's a very different approach to nutrition. So I like that it's, not just a calories thing. And it was funny when you mentioned that babies need 1,200, toddlers need 1,200 calories. Whenever you go look at, apps or whatever, it says, well, do a minimum of 1,200 calories. So I feel like we're all kind of conditioned that that's where we need to be to lose our weight. So
Yeah.
So I guess the one of the questions is how do you, and it's kind of fun going into lunch. How do you start, because everything is such a fad right now, right? With keto and
Yeah.
So where do you start kind of going back to the basics so that you can start to rebuild and almost rewire your brain about how you think about food?
I mean, I like to start with just, again, balance. So when you look at your plate, do you have some protein? Do you have a carbohydrate source, like a sweet potato, chicken breast? And then, of course, tons of non-starchy veggies, which are basically all the veggies like spinach and kale and Brussels and asparagus, really keeping it simple. I think a lot of people want to start off with making all these gourmet meals and casseroles, and it really doesn't have to be that intense. It can just stay pretty simple. And then with some people do love testing or using an app to count. I think that it can definitely be a good tool for really assessing if you're actually under eating, because I did it myself and I realized, wow, I thought I was eating more and I really wasn't. But yes, being mindful, if your calorie counter app is saying less than 1500, then that's a big red flag, because what they're doing is taking an equation and they're not actually feeling like, okay, well, what's good for hormones? So I am like nothing under 1500, and just kind of take that with a grain of salt.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think that that is it for the questions. Thank you so much for taking your Sunday to be with us.
Yeah.
Great information. I love how you kind of go into the science and the details versus just, what we learned in high school and elementary school. Is there anything you want to leave folks with, um, for the event for today moving forward?
No, I think that's about it of what I covered. Just thank you so much for having me on, and I love geeking out about this stuff.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys. Check out Lahana. She gave you her information. Audrey said thank you, Lahana. That was great. So
Thank
check her
you.
out, connect with her, and thank you again. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right. Well, folks, we are just a few minutes